Shalom, little friends. Talmud Day of Yeshua. Hag Sameach, Sukkot Day 2. How did you spend the first day of this special festivity?
Shalom, little friends. Have you stayed in your sukkah during this day? Did you sleep in it? Did you eat in it? Or have you played in it?
Me?
Very well. What a great joy that you are fulfilling the commandment. Remember, little friends, each holy appointment brings a teaching to our lives. And in these days of Sukkot, we will learn a lot from men who were pilgrims on this earth. And we will have great teachings from them.
That is right, Yossi. We will learn from souls who did not seek to fulfill their own will, but of the eternal in their lives.
Me?
Today, we will talk about a very obedient man, and because of his obedience, he was called the father of faith.
Who will we learn from, Yossi?
Me?
Let's see, Sharon and Naim. Who do you think? Let's think.
Help us, little friends. Well, he was called the father of faith. Then, is it Abraham, Yossi?
Me?
That's right, little sister. Today we will talk about Abraham, a temporary sukkah that was very obedient, that never doubted of the promises of the Father. He didn't even think twice before obeying, and so he is who we should imitate.
Very well, Yossi. Little friends, if you wish to listen and learn more, join us to hear the explanation of the little friends from Cielos Nuevos Niños.
Go ahead, little friends. His call.
In Bereshit chapter 12, verse 1 to 4, it says, The Eternal had said to Abram, Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing.
I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all the people on earth will be blessed through you. So Abram went as the Eternal had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran.
Abram went out with all the people who accompanied him, with his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, his menservants, and his maidservants. He obeyed very happily without making excuses, because he knew that the Almighty was going to keep his promises, and that he was not going to fail, and it was so.
When he arrived at Bethel, Abram built an altar to the Almighty, and he did so because it was a way of acknowledging that the Eternal was his mighty man and his banner.
They traveled to many places, living in the city of Ur. From there, they went to Haran. From Haran to Canaan, to Bethel, and from there to Egypt, where they had to go because of the famine that occurred during that time in that land.
Here we can see how the Eternal sustains them even in very difficult moments such as hunger.
Wow, Yossi! Abraham obeyed and left everything without caring about anything.
This is why, Sharon, it is important to learn from him. This is how we should be if we really want to be called children of Elohim. We must leave everything that is not good, what prevents us from following the will of the Eternal, even what we like the most.
That is right, Yossi. Keep explaining more.
In the path.
Abram left Egypt towards the Negev, and then back to Bethel. And it happened that Lot and Abram got a lot of cattle, and their servants started fighting because there was no room for the cattle.
So Abram decided that they would separate, and Lot chose to go to the plain of Jordan in the direction of Sodom, to very fertile lands where the men were very bad.
Then Abram went to Mamre, which was in Hebron, where the land was very desert, and once again built an altar there to the Almighty, since he always recognized his Mighty One.
Yossi, why did Lot head towards the land of the bad men?
By the desire of his eyes, Lot represents the men who covet what their eyes see and desire, only the material, and think only of taking advantage of something. But on the other hand, Abraham did not act like that. He knew that wherever he was, the Eternal would be his help and his provision.
I see, Yossi. That is why it is important to learn to depend on the Eternal all the time and not let ourselves be carried away by materialism.
That is right, Sharon, because later Lot had sad results of his decision. But let's keep listening, friends. The Promise.
In Bereshit, chapter 15, from verse 4 to 6, it says, "Then the word of the Eternal came to him. This man will not be your heir, but a son who is your own flesh and blood will be your heir." He took him outside and said, "Look up at the sky and count the stars, if indeed you can count them." Then he said to him, "So shall your offspring be." Abram believed the Eternal, and he credited it to him as righteousness.
Abram believed in the Eternal and trusted that everything would be fulfilled. But as years passed, both Abram and Sarai became elderly.
Seeing that they still had no children, Sarai tells Abram to have a son of her servant Hagar, who was a very beautiful Egyptian girl. It seemed like a good idea to both of them, and that's how Ishmael, Abram's firstborn, was born.
Abram loved Ishmael and wanted Ishmael to be upright and to walk firm in the ways of the Eternal, so he would be very blessed, and so that the pact of the Eternal could remain in him.
But the Eternal told Abram that Ishmael would not be the son of the promise, but it would be a son born from him and Sarai, although Ishmael would also be greatly blessed by the Eternal. Ishmael was the firstborn of Abraham? I didn't know that, Yossi.
That is correct, Sharon. Although Ishmael was the firstborn and Abraham loved him, he understood that he was not the one who would receive the long-awaited promise. So calmly he kept waiting to see the son of the promise, who would receive all the blessings of the Father. Abraham did not despair, even though the years passed. The Pact.
When Abram was 99 years old, the Eternal appeared to him once more and told him that he was going to make a pact with him, and that this pact would be a sign in his flesh, and that every male in his house should have it.
Abram then obeyed, and he, his son Ishmael, and all his servants entered into a covenant.
Once again, the Eternal confirms to Abram the promise of having a son, and this made him laugh because he thought, "I'm old now." Then the Eternal changed Abram's name to Abraham, which means
Father of multitudes,
and changed Sarai's name to Sarah, which means
princess.
Shortly after, 3 messengers from the Eternal appeared to him and asked him about Sarah, his wife, and one of them tells him that in a year Sarah will have a baby.
And so it happened. Finally, the long-awaited Isaac was born, although he was not the firstborn, but he was the son of the promise.
Isaac means laughter because both Sarah and Abraham laughed when they found out that he would be born.
How nice that a baby was born to them. But why did they laugh? They didn't believe in the promise of the Eternal?
Of course they did, Sharon. They did not laugh out of disbelief, but out of happiness. They knew that they were very old and that it would be a bit difficult for them to have a baby. But even so, they believed in the Eternal, because during all this time, He had not left them, but He had a purpose. Continue, little friends. The test.
The Eternal gave Abraham a test and ordered him to take his only son Yitzhak, whom he loved, and go to the land of Moriah. There, Abraham was going to offer his son as a burnt offering on an altar on the mountain that the Eternal will tell them.
So Abraham got up early in the morning, took his donkey, 2 of his servants, and his son Yitzhak, and went to the place that the Eternal had told him.
Being there, Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to sacrifice his son. But the angel of the Eternal spoke to him from heaven and told him not to stretch out his hand, nor do anything to Yitzhak, because now he knew that Abraham was fearful of the Almighty, since he had not denied him his son. Abraham obeyed the Eternal, even when he asked for his gift, which was Isaac. Abraham did not think of refusing to obey Elohim. How difficult it would be to make such a decision like this. That was a tough situation. Imagine, Yossi, the Eternal asked Abraham for his only son, whom he loved so much.
That is right, Sharon. It was a tough situation, but still Abraham chose first to obey the Father, putting aside what he felt for his son.
But Yossi, how can we learn from this? Will we have to go through a situation like this to be obedient?
No, Sharon. Maybe we don't have to go through this situation, but it is very important for us to know that in our pilgrimage, we should not doubt of the Eternal, much less hesitate to leave what the Eternal asks of us, even if it includes giving our lives for obedience.
I understand, Yossi. We must be like Abraham, putting our obedience to the Eternal first before anything else. Yossi, Abraham's life has taught me the importance of obeying the Eternal and trusting in Him. Is this all of the life of Abraham, Yossi, or is there more to learn?
Yes, little sister. Keep sharing more about Abraham's life, little friends. Abraham finds a wife for his son.
Abraham was already old when he told his servant Eliezer, who was the oldest of his house, to swear to him that he would not take any daughter of the Canaanites as a wife for his son Isaac, but that Eliezer was going to take a woman from the land and from the family of Abraham for Isaac.
But Eliezer told Abraham that maybe the girl he finds for Isaac might not want to go with him. Then he asks Abraham if he should take Isaac with him to the land from which the Eternal took Abraham out of.
But Abraham tells him that the Eternal was going to send an angel to go before Eliezer, and that he was not going to take Isaac with him. Arriving at the indicated place, he asks the Eternal that he can find the right woman for Isaac.
And so it was. The Eternal guided Eliezer to find the wife for Isaac.
Yossi, why is it that Abraham did not want Isaac to marry a Canaanite woman?
Remember, Sharon, the blessing that Isaac was going to acquire was spiritual rather than material, so he could not be married to a Canaanite or from another lineage. They had to take care of their descendants. That is why it is very important to take care who they'd marry. Little friends, please continue. His death.
Finally, the years of Abraham's life were 175 years, and he died in a good old age. He was buried with his people. Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the field that Abraham bought to bury Sarah, his wife.
Wow, Yossi, what an incredible pilgrimage! It is an example that we must imitate. Everything we have learned on this day has been edifying.
That's right, Sharon. Do you want to share what you have learned today with the life of the patriarch Abraham?
Of course, Yossi. Today I learned that it is important to obey without asking or doubting, trusting that everything the Eternal asks of us is good and perfect, and that He will bless us if we are obedient as Abraham was. I also learned that we should not get carried away by what our eyes see, by the material, as Lot did. Rather, we should be like Abraham, who went in search of the spiritual, and we should do that. Another thing I learned is that although time passes, we must always love the Eternal and remain in hope of the promise, even if it takes time to see it fulfilled. Finally, I learned that we should never return to the place where we left, even if it seems good.
Very well, little sister. We should not be like the world, which focuses on the material and does not obey or trust the Eternal. Sharon, little friends, the Eternal is very good because He gives us the opportunity to learn from these souls who are an example to follow and who through their lives we can learn how to pilgrimage in obedience to the Eternal, having our gaze towards the heavenly and not the earthly. Little friends, just as today we learned great characteristics of this man of faith, let's continue learning day by day from more men who were obedient to the Eternal. We will be learning from them until we reach the stature of the perfect man, Yeshua.
Talmud Day of Yeshua. Let's not get tired of doing good. Hazak, hazak, little friends. Let's remember during all of our life that we are a temporary sukkah, just as this man of faith was.
With great joy, you will appear before Adonai on the 15th day of the 7th month. You will celebrate Sukkot, Sukkot. In temporary buildings you must celebrate Sukkot, Sukkot. Your first before the Father you must praise Him. With songs full of joy you will exalt Sukkot, Sukkot. 7 days you have this, you will rejoice. Yeshua. We remember on this festivity by heavenly abodes, the earthly ones He will transform. Sukkot, Sukkot, in temporary dwellings you must adore. Sukkot, Sukkot, therefore before the Father you must praise Him. Sukkot, Sukkot, with songs full of joy you will exalt. Sukkot, Sukkot, 7 days in cabins you will rejoice.
Activity: Abraham, a sukkah of faith. Little friends, for the second day of Sukkot, download the activities to review this great teaching, where we will see the path that Abraham pilgrimaged. We will answer a few questions, and we will complete a great phrase, in addition to coloring.
Little friends, remember to visit the Cielos Nuevos y Tierra Nueva website in the section Niños at www.cielosnuevosytierranueva.org and download all of our free material. We have a WhatsApp and Telegram number, +52 33 28 24 91 85, where you can send your photos and videos when solving the activity of Abraham, a sukkah of faith. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Cielos Nuevos Niños. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Cielos Nuevos Niños. And let's continue learning about the Eternal Father's instruction.
In the next teaching, Sukkot Day 3, the 17th day of the 7th month. Little friends, see you at the next teaching on the 3rd day of Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles. Shalom!